Welcome to Voices of Care, real stories to inspire, uplift, and unite caregivers with hosts Maggie Linton and Carl Powell. Enjoy the conversation.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for joining us for Voices of Care. I'm Maggie Linton, along with our co-host Carl Powell. We have another very moving story, stories that may get you to an answer that you may need. And our guest today is Ngozi Oduayienwosu, and she is here to tell her story. Welcome to Voices of Care, Ngozi.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Carl, for having me.
I was so excited to find you online. Really, your stuff is great. I watch you every day.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah,
So tell
so
us about,
my
I was getting ready to say, tell us about your journey because it's really very moving.
yeah, caring for my mom changed everything about how I see dementia caregiving. As a nurse and a public health professional, I have always understood a little bit of the clinical aspect of dementia or, chronic diseases. But as a daughter, it feels differently, to get into this journey, not just a journey, but a journey that you have to deal with 24/7. So it's the pain of the journey feels different in the clinical setting. You walk in, you walk out, right? But living with it, and you are actually part of the journey, it feels different for me. Yeah, so I watched my mom, go from talking to minimal words to completely lots of speech. And watching her go from, the decline, it's very painful. It's a very painful journey to just watch someone who is vibrant, who is energetic, who is, a go-getter, just go down the hill.
And how
It
quickly
was
did
a
this
very,
happen?
she passed last month.
Oh, this is
So
still
yeah,
raw for you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
How long did she have Alzheimer's or dementia, or was it ever really given the exact title? Because there's so many different forms.
Mm. So in 2019, she was officially diagnosed, but of course, the symptom has been there, but um, my context, talking about early diagnosis, we didn't have the privilege of that to get that early diagnosis on time. So there was delay in diagnosis, which of course led by the time, we realized things, she was she was at the last stage, the later stage of the disease. Yeah. So 2019 officially diagnosed, and yeah, so from
So
2019 to
when they diagnosed it, did they give you a specific diagnosis? Was it Lewy body dementia? Or did they just say dementia?
unfortunately, the first hospital, she did MRI and other, tests. It was just dementia. But we took her to another hospital, for another MRI. They said, oh, this is vascular dementia. And
Mm.
another year after, this was 3 years of, checks. The third year, it was always Alzheimer's. So, but of course, it didn't really make any difference because it was already at the last stage, the later
Mm.
stage of the disease. So it didn't make much difference. So, yeah. So that was,
I found later on my mother had dementia, and when I went, the diagnosis they gave me was your mother has dementia. And because I didn't know nothing about it, I'm not a
yeah,
nurse. I knew
yeah,
nothing. I just
mhm,
accepted that dementia is what it was.
yeah,
And then later, after my mother passed, I found all the different types of dementia.
dementia,
Now that
yeah.
I understand dementia better, I
Mhm,
understand that my mother had Lewy body dementia, and that's why the anger came before the forgetting. The anger came
mm,
before the hallucination started years before we
yeah,
started thinking, oh, this might be dementia. So now that
mm,
I have the little pieces to put together,
yeah,
and you're gonna find this in your healing journey because now I'm 3 years
yeah,
in to healing.
mm,
As the more you learn, the more you
yeah,
heal. And that's
that's
the
true.
reason why I do the podcast in the first place, because every single week I
Mm,
learn another piece of what was wrong with my mother and how I can go into my own heart and heal. So I pray
that's
you
right.
heal. Yeah. Mm,
Thank you. Thank you.
mm,
Yeah, the healing process is a journey. It's
Mm.
it's more like
mm.
the journey of caregiving.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so yeah,
And
yeah.
and the hardest part also is, in a sense, even though you knew, you didn't know, and you're learning now so much more about what you didn't know. What were some of the first signs that you started realizing long before 2019 that something was going on?
Mm. That's a very interesting question. My I had a visit. My mom visited us um, from where we visited us in the country where we were at that time, and we were having a conversation, and just within a split second, something went off. She said something that that didn't make sense. Unfortunately, of course, she came for a visit, and after a month, she went back, and that didn't ring a bell to me. It was, after the diagnosis that when I look back, I was like, oh, this was that, you know? So I missed that. Of course, there is something maybe that has been going on. She wasn't living with me at that time. Um, so I think it was something that has been going on that we did not pick up on time. Yeah.
But I found with so many people who have the dementia or Alzheimer's, they know they're slipping, but they try and hide it too. Because Carl, I know your mom sure did, having been
Yeah.
around her since. They really try and, they say, well, what did you say? Oh, and immediately they get defensive. And
Yeah,
that's one of those things that the light bulb goes on for you, but not as bright as it probably should.
that's right. That's right. Yeah,
Well,
that
I
was
think I
that
think
for
dementia
me.
is something that we don't really discuss. And that's the other part of the reason why I love your Facebook page so much is you really go into the conversation of what caregiving is. Because we don't know. You don't know in the beginning you think caregiving is A, B, C, D. This is what
Yeah,
I'm gonna do. It's so different once you step into the room. My mother was
that's
different than I expected. I didn't expect her to be angry with me. We
mm,
were always best friends. So when she was angry with me, out of all the people in the room, I was
yeah,
shocked. And that took healing even in that moment. Because why are you being so mean to me? But I knew I had to
Mm,
learn when I'm talking to the disease and when I'm talking to her and
that's
divide
right.
that. And that was
Yeah.
difficult. Mm.
Mm, mm. Yeah, for me, talking about aggression, there was a time, we went to visit my mom with other siblings, and uh, she kind of snapped. It's interesting. Dementia is not one of those diseases that comes to mind like it's this, right? Or is this, or is malaria? No, it's something very far from what you will kind of think or put a handle on immediately. So my mom snapped, and we were like, why did you get that angry? Why are you angry? Of course, she didn't respond, but it was kind of a surprise to the family, but of course, that was also a sign that was ignored.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Now, how many siblings do you have?
I have four
Okay.
currently. My mom lost three sons, so
Mm,
yeah.
sorry to hear
So
that.
yeah.
But did all of you almost collectively say, kind of, what's going on?
You know, not really,
Okay.
because when we come together, of course, you have kids,
Hmm.
there are, so many distractions that you don't pay attention to details, And of course, my mom stays alone, not really alone, but she's in her home and um, with other people, around, and everybody's in one city or the other. But, so when we come together, it's something brief. It's like 1 week, few days, and everybody goes back. So the day she snapped, and we were like, what, why are you angry? But of course, that was it then. Everybody went back to their base and life continued until things got worse.
And
Yeah.
you knew
So
you was close to them. Yeah.
yes. So I'm really passionate about, the um, awareness of dementia. So yeah, when I look back at the things, the signs we missed, I'm like, no, yeah.
But again, you can't beat yourself up about it because now you're recalling it and but you didn't know at that point that those were the warning signs. And that's why you're working so hard to inform others about the warning signs, as is called.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm. So, in the country where you're living, remind me what country you're in.
Currently in Ethiopia, Addis
Eh,
Ababa.
So, in Ethiopia, what is the healthcare system like?
Because we're from Nigeria, I'm from Nigeria,
Uh-huh.
living in Ethiopia. Um,
Mhm.
Ethiopia health, I think it's pretty much, what it is. When you look at the context of the continent,
Mhm.
um, they have a decent healthcare system, I should say.
Mhm.
I'm not really deep into it, but they have a decent healthcare system. Yeah.
And are you doing dementia education there?
I do,
Mhm.
but not hands-on.
Mhm.
One, because of language barriers, not really a big issue, but not fully hands-on, like, going to hospital or, to do the awareness, but I still communicate that still through social media.
Mm.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the social media spots where people can find, because that's how Carl found you. And it's so informative. And it's almost like you're the leader of the band for what needs to be told and discussed. So where can people find you?
So my social media page is Compassion and Dementia Care page. It's a Facebook page. It's also on Twitter. Sorry, did I say Twitter? No, on
Yeah, well,
TikTok.
that's what most people still call it. They can call it X
On
all they want.
on
We
Tik
know what it really is. Yeah.
Mm.
on TikTok and Instagram.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. I want you to know that as you go through these next months, these next weeks, these next years, you're doing the right thing because learning more about it is how I'm personally healing. The more I learn about the disease, the more I bring the awareness out to other people, I feel like I'm keeping my mother's voice alive. And I feel like dementia silenced my mother's voice in a way that it bothers me. And I knew that I didn't want my mother just to be snuffed out in the end, because that's not the woman that she was. And so I thought for myself, the best thing that I can do is figure out this dementia thing and teach other people how to be aware of it. We're not going to avoid it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen maybe to you, to me. Caregiving is
Yeah.
something that
Yeah. Yeah.
you may need one day, I may need one day, Maggie may need one day.
Yeah.
But the more we can get out into the trenches of it
Mhm.
and teach people the importance and the beauty of it, because there's so much beauty in what's painful.
That is true. That is so true. Um, Knowledge is power, as we said. When we understand, we are able to communicate better, and we are also able to support others who are going through the journey. There are mistakes I made during, my caregiving journey that I wouldn't want another caregiver to make that same mistake, you know. Um, One thing I hold very dearly is I cared for my mom compassionately, and I did all I could to preserve dignity as well as maintain quality of life as much as I could, you know. So I'm big on that. One thing is to care. Another thing is to care with compassion, care with dignity. Uh, the person is still a whole being. It's still a whole being that is still existing. When I look back, growing up and who my mother was, and when I look at what dementia did to her, how dementia stole her slowly, you know, day by day, you see her lose herself, from losing speech to losing mobility, like completely losing herself to dementia, but still, she is still a whole person. So I am big on compassionate care, dignity and maintaining quality of life until the end. So talking about, supporting with and leaving the legacy on, having the legacy to live on. That's the only way we can keep that alive. Yeah.
I look at you and you are living the legacy. You are doing much like Carl, helping people know more, knowing that they are not in it by themselves. And what did your mom do before all of this? I know she raised a bunch of kids, but
Yeah.
what other was she working too? I mean, boy, with that many kids, that within itself was a full-time job. But
Yeah.
talk about her as she was before.
My mom, she was an entrepreneur. She ran a restaurant and she did a bunch of other businesses, And having her lost all of these, to dementia. I mean, she's a very good cook, you know, amazing cook, When this whole thing started, I was like, oh, come, I tried to bring her over to the kitchen, for us to cook. And she doesn't know, what's going on in the kitchen any longer. Those moments were like, for me, the dementia has, taken so much of her that what she knows best to do, her passion, she can't even, I knew she might have an understanding, but what exactly am I going to do there? She doesn't know. I'm very sure. Yeah. So watching her lose her passion to dementia was, yeah, it was very painful to watch.
It sounds like it, and it sounds like you two were very close. And I know she was proud of you, but you are continuing to make her proud by helping so many others. What other kind of support did you have as you walked this journey? From brothers and sisters, from support groups, or anything like that? Was it out there for you?
I was fortunate enough we got nurses over to the house who was supporting me. Got two nurses over who was supporting me with her care. So she had a support system because at some point she needed two people, to move, to stand and if we want to lift her, she needs four hands to lift her. And, so I was blessed to have that support at that time. Yeah. So, and families too were very supportive. My husband was very supportive. He was my biggest cheerleader in this whole journey, and very accommodating because we took my mom to be with us, at that time. And yeah,
Well, that within itself was a blessing
yeah.
because so many people walk the journey by themselves.
Yes, that's I feel really uh, bad for soul caregivers. Honestly, even with the support system, caregiving is still very, very hard, So not having a support system or, any assistance at all, it's very tough. I know for sure it will be very difficult for soul caregivers. Yeah.
Well, Carl, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I just was going to ask one more question because I know it's late where you are. It's like 11 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When I found you, what I found most beautiful is that you were touching people of color because a lot of times we don't get the same attention or attention to how we can find care. So I just wanted to ask you, what made you decide to become that face on Facebook that talks about things that people don't want to talk about.
Mm. I told you, okay, maybe I didn't tell you that. We got delayed diagnosis. My mom was diagnosed very late, and that denied us of any support in terms of medically, or, that could have sustained or slowed down the progression, at least to some extent, if she had gotten early diagnosis. And there's also another aspect to it in the continent where, certain diseases are not, you don't want to discuss it, or it's a taboo, or they don't talk, or they wonder, those sort of things makes it that people don't want to discuss this kind of illness. It's cancer, okay, right? But dementia, it's kind of something new, I should say, because it's not like you hear cancer, and people know, oh, yeah, cancer has been there, right? But dementia is kind of coming up like a new thing where until a name is given to it, it's like, oh, you are wondering, right? Why are you wandering at night, right? Why did you take somebody's thing, right? Why are you aggressive without any reason? So without knowing, this is what it is. It's a symptom. It's a sign of a disease. So we miss those parts in the continent. So when I look back on the mistakes we made, I felt like, no, this has to be out there. We need to say it the way it is. It's an illness. It's a disease. It's like every other disease that's affecting the brain. So that's my passion. That's my motive. That's what, motivated me to say, this has to be out there. There has to be somebody who is speaking about this to the community. That was my passion. And also I learned a lot of lessons from my journey. I learned so much from caring for my mom. I learned resilience. I learned, that no matter how much dementia has taken, there is still connection. On the book, on my book, The Compassionate Caregiver, the hand, that's my hand and my mom's hand on the cover page. I held my mom and she wouldn't let go. I tried to remove my hand, but she wouldn't let go of my hand. So I captured that moment of connection. She wasn't talking, but she was communicating. She was connecting. So I captured that moment. And when I look at that photo, it reminds me that even though she lost her words, there's still connection. So I learned connection in different ways from caring for my mom. I also learned, resilience, not just for me. She was resilient as a woman for losing 3 sons and was still, moving. I learned resilience. She was resilient. I also learned resilience from her, from caring for her. I learned that dementia cannot strip the dignity that we have as human beings. No matter how, deep dementia has eaten, it cannot remove that dignity. They're still a whole person until they are no more, So it taught me a lot of lessons. It taught me that, there's no giving up until it's over. You keep showing up with the same mind, with the same goal to preserve life, to maintain dignity, and also maintain the quality of life. You keep showing up as a caregiver. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think this is where we need to end right now. And it is Ngozi Oduayienwosu. And we must, once again, tell us where you can be found, how it's labeled, and also talk about where we can find the book. I'm sure probably on Amazon, but other locations too.
Yeah, the book is on Amazon, The Compassionate Caregiver, a practical and emotional guide to dementia care. So it's a book for caregivers, family caregivers, for loved ones, nurses. It's a book for anyone who is walking this journey. And I try to balance the dementia journey as well as acknowledge the emotional journey of the caregiver. So yeah, it's on Amazon. Yeah.
Okay. And then
All right. Well, I'll find the details and I'll post it up at the end. So I'll make
okay.
sure that everyone can find
Thank
it.
you. Thank you, Carl.
Well, thank you
Thank
so much for staying up late and joining us. I know I always laugh at myself because I'm up late myself. I'm on Facebook and I'm like, I'd like to talk to her. And I send emails and if people answer, they answer. And if they don't, well, they didn't want to talk to me. But you answered. I
That's
appreciate you so much. And we're going to keep in touch. We're going to keep walking this walk together. And as you heal, always
sure.
reach out to me, please.
Sure. Thank you, Carl. Thank you for the amazing job you're doing. You
No,
and
thank you.
Maggie, thank you.
And
Really
Ngozi,
appreciate
I
it.
just have to say that you are going through healing by helping heal others and just
That's right.
continue to be a vessel for others to turn to. And you will have your resilience that you received from your mom and passing it on to others.
Thank you. Thank you, Maggie. I appreciate.
And that's Voices of Care. I'm Maggie Linton along with Carl Powell and our guest today, Ngozi Oduayienwosu. Thank you very much. God's
Thank you.
blessings always.
As a registered nurse and public health professional, Ngozi Oduayienwosu is a passionate advocate for dementia care. She poured her expertise and experience into her book, The Compassionate Caregiver, a practical and emotional guide to dementia care, which is available on Amazon. You can connect with her on Facebook at Compassion in Dementia Care.